What's going on, everybody? Marvel Cross 316 back with another comic book flashback. Today we are looking at the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 64. This issue came out in September of 1968, and we continue the story today with the Vulture, the return of the Vulture. He returned last issue in issue number 63, but now we see the original Vulture, Adrian Toomes, battling Spider-Man and injured Spider-Man today. Today's title is The Vulture's Prey. So we just have an all-out great action story for you today. I hope you don't click away. And before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, and let's go ahead and get started. As always, this is brought to you by Stan the Man Lee, who wrote this issue, and John Ringading Ramita doing the artwork. We also have Don Heck contributing to this issue as well with the artwork. Mickey DeMeo on the inking, and Artie Simek on the lettering page. Let me read this right here. It says, "The Vulture still lives. Last issue we learned that the deadly airborne arch-fiend had survived. Lo, these many months we saw him effortlessly defeat his outclassed namesake, that was Blackie Drago, and now the mysterious winged menace swoops down for the kill towards an injured, startled Spider-Man." And so we definitely have an awesome issue for you today. Let's go ahead and continue the story here. We left off here with Jameson here. He was with Peter Parker. He had Peter Parker taking photos of the fight with Blackie Drago and Adrian Toomes. Well, Adrian Toomes defeated Blackie Drago. Blackie Drago, who was the new Vulture, he was captured by the police on top of a rooftop. And so now we see that the Vulture, the original Vulture, is swooping down for the kill on Spider-Man. And of course we know that Spider-Man is in fact Peter Parker. So we see here that Joe Robertson goes down to the street to look for another photographer since Peter Parker has vanished. So he does find one. So this guy's going to be taking photos of this fight. And let me just say, this is an awesome action-packed story. So let's go ahead and look at some of these great action scenes here. I mean, Spider-Man, he's going to have to be on the defensive here as he has an injured arm. He injured his arm in the last issue here. And so he only has one arm to really fight the Vulture here. And the Vulture is aware of this too. He notices that Spider-Man is holding on to his arm. So he's going to have to find a way to defend himself with the Vulture being in his element, the Vulture swooping down for the kill. I mean, the Vulture definitely has the advantage here. And so Spider-Man does everything possible here to dodge the blast of the Vulture. And every time the Vulture gets near, I mean, he's almost able to connect to Spider-Man. All of a sudden, it seems Spider-Man vanishes here. And Vulture's like, he's gone, but where? So the Vulture swoops on down. He's trying to find where Spider-Man's at. The crowd below are noticing this entire fight. And so we see that Spider-Man was hiding here on the other side of this roof, this chimney. He grabs a hold of the Vulture's wing here. We see that Jameson is telling this photographer here to continue to take photos, these action-packed photos here. We see that the Vulture connects with one punch to the jaw here to Spider-Man. And Spider-Man connects once again. Like I said, awesome action scenes drawn by John Romita right here. And so, again, awesome stuff. Jameson saying, "What a shot. These pixels make history." And so Spider-Man, he's noticing that one punch to the jaw to the Vulture almost made him topple off the wall. So he has to keep his balance while he's fighting with one arm. So the Vulture swoops up once again. And the Vulture notices that he says, "With each passing minute, your defense grows weaker." And that's exactly what is happening here. Spider-Man here, a last effort move here, he webs both legs rather, of the Vulture here. And so he's going to try to use that to his advantage. And so we see here that Jameson and Robertson, they're both telling this guy to take some photos, but all of a sudden they see that the Vulture is leading Spider-Man right towards them. And so this is going to cause a big ruckus here, right here, as we see the Vulture is going to allow Spider-Man to collide into both men, and that's exactly what happens. And Jameson, of course, is blaming Spider-Man, saying that Spider-Man is trying to kill him. But of course, Spider-Man is not trying to do that. So Spider-Man lets go of his webbing. He knows this is too dangerous. And so Spider-Man lands on top of the bugle sign here. We see that the Vulture, once again, is coming in for the kill. Robertson here alerts Spider-Man, saying, Spider-Man, watch it. He's coming at you again. And Jameson's like, what are you warning him for? I'm rooting for the Vulture. And so we see the Vulture here. He crashes into the bugle sign, and it causes pieces of it to fall, like a bunch of bricks to fall, and they're headed right towards Jameson and Joe Robertson. Joe Robertson, being a hero that he is, dives in the way of the crash here and saves Jameson, but part of the brick here, the wall, falls on top of Joe Robertson's leg. So that's not good. So we see here that Joe Robertson is passing out here, while we see Jameson here is blaming Spider-Man for it. And he's saying, if anything happens to Joe Robertson, I'll never rest until you're caught. And Spider-Man's like, why don't you, instead of using all those threats, why don't you call an ambulance instead? So here we go. We see the Vulture is still coming in for the kill, when all of a sudden we see Jameson come from behind, and he grabs both arms of Spider-Man. So now Spider-Man is helpless as Jameson's holding on to him. Spider-Man, still with his strength, allows himself to dodge the threat of the Vulture here. And so the Vulture's like, how much longer can Spider-Man hold off against me? So Spider-Man webs up Jameson here, and that's pretty funny comedy here, as we see Jameson stuck in his most hated enemy's webbing here. We see that Joe Robertson seems to be just okay, and we cut here in the midst of this huge battle scene. We're at Aunt May's house, and all of a sudden we see Mary Jane Watson appear, and it appears that she has a new hairstyle. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I liked her with longer hair. I don't think this hairstyle really fits her that well, but at this time she had decided to get a new hairstyle, and even her own aunt is wondering why in the world did Mary Jane cut her hair. And then we also find out in this issue that we see Captain Stacy here. He tells Gwen Stacy, his daughter, that his memory of the Kingpin has returned and that Peter Parker was innocent, and that what happened in issue number 60 was an accident. So now we see that finally Gwen Stacy is going to forgive Peter Parker for what happened back in issue number 60. So both family members are walking down the street. They're wondering where Peter Parker and Harry Osborn are. They notice that Norman Osborn has not been acting himself as of late. When all of a sudden they see a big crowd standing in front of the Daily Bugle building, and they notice that there's a huge fight going on between Spider-Man and the Vulture. And we see that two of the people, Betty Brant and Ned Leeds, are amongst the crowd. And Betty Brant tells Gwen Stacy that Mr. Jameson, Joe Robertson, and Peter Parker were covering the story, and they're up on top of the building. So now we have a very worried Gwen Stacy here. We see now, as we return to the battle here, we have Spider-Man and the Vulture. Spider-Man lands the Vulture with one huge punch to the gut, but still the Vulture rolled with that punch. He kicks Spider-Man in the jaw. Spider-Man lands on top of this building here, and now the Vulture notices that he's about to just fall to his death here. Spider-Man's about to fall to his death, but before he does that, he grabs a hold of the Vulture's leg, but that signals Spider-Man's doom as the Vulture connects with one more punch to the jaw, and another punch, and another punch, and another punch, and one more punch just for kicks. Spider-Man is, he's going to pretty much to lose this battle. So before Spider-Man falls to his death, he allows himself to web up a web cushion to break his fall. So Spider-Man lands on the web cushion. It seems that the Vulture is victorious in this issue, and he's about to finally claim victory when all of a sudden Spider-Man, who's playing possum, grabs a hold of the Vulture's back, allowing himself to break the built-in power pack on the Vulture's wings. So now that his wings are short-circuiting, we're going to see that the Vulture escapes here. But while Spider-Man is claiming victory, all of a sudden he passes out in the middle of the street with this huge crowd of people. And we notice that this one man says, "It's our one chance to unmask him." So what will happen next issue as you look with the man behind the mask? Will Spider-Man be unmasked for the first time amongst a crowd of citizens? We'll see all this happen next issue as we look at issue number 65. 65. I hope to see you then. And until next time, keep reading comics.